Hi, I'm Robyn, and welcome to the Big Bear Homestead. Come join us today as we learn how to make butter using household kitchen items. When we began our journey homesteading, our first concern was meat. Once we got meat taken care of, the next issue was going to be milk. So as a family, we decided to purchase a dairy cow. Every day we get anywhere from 3 to 5 gallons of milk. And that's a lot of milk, and there are a lot of different options of what you can do with it. Some we use for slop, some we use for everyday use like eating cereal or baking. But then there's also the cream, and the cream we can use to make butter. Today I'm going to show you how we can use these kitchen tools to make butter and be able to store it and use it. Okay. So our very first step is to filter the milk. Now whether you hand milk or you machine milk, there's going to be an opportunity for any bug or a little piece of dirt or whatever to get into the milk. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the bucket, and what I have done is just used a simple funnel that you use for canning. Fits straight down inside that hole. And then I lay just a piece of washcloth. You can use paper towel, coffee filter, anything like that that's going to catch any of the impurities that come into the milk. So what we'll do is pour that in. And allow it to catch any little random bugs, dirt, anything like that in the milk. Now, after you have filtered the milk into a container, you're going to allow it to sit for 12 to 24 hours to allow the cream to rise to the top. We have used a container that you can put into the refrigerator that usually you use for water that has a spigot on the bottom that will make this easier. What you'll do is the lid, usually we keep the lid on. We're going to take the lid off so that it removes the vacuum so it's easy to filter the milk out. And then what you're going to do is start to take the milk out from the bottom of the container. Now since the cream has risen to the top, right now all you're taking out is the skimmed milk. Now this is a very long process, and as you can see my jug is not going to be enough to hold all of the milk that's in this container. So what you need to do is make sure that you have somewhere to put this milk after you've drained it out. Now, once you have drained all of the milk out and all you have left is the cream, you're going to take the lid and put it back on to the container. Tilt it up. Take the spigot out. And the reason you do this is because it's a very small hole in the spigot, and sometimes if the cream is really thick, it's hard for the cream to go through the spigot. So it's just easier to take the spigot off and pour the cream straight into your mixing bowl. Now that you've filtered the cream out and poured it into your mixing bowl, you're going to need to allow it to come to room temperature. And that could take anywhere from 3 to 5 hours. So what you're going to need to do is cover it so that you don't have bugs or fruit flies or whatever get into the cream. This is very important because if you don't allow the cream to get to room temperature, it will not turn into butter using a standing mixer. Trust me, I know. So what you need to do is take a towel, anything will do, and just cover the surface of the mixing bowl so that no bugs or flies can get into the cream. Okay, so it's been about 5 hours. We're going to go ahead and take the towel off of the cream. Go ahead and put it off to the side. Then you're going to grab your bowl, put it on your standing mixer, make sure that the bowl is locked into place so it doesn't move around. And you're going to take the arm and go ahead and put it down into the cream and lock it into place. Alright, now that you have your cream in place, go ahead and turn your standing mixer on. Now, you don't want to turn it straight from off all the way to the highest setting. What you want to do is kind of baby step it up just a little bit at a time, maybe about 15 to 20 seconds every couple of settings. So we're going to start by turning it on, maybe at about 2 or 3. Let it mix for a little bit. And then turn it up a little bit more. And depending on how thick your cream is, you'll see that sometimes the bowl struggles a little bit to move it along. So that's when it's time to go ahead and move it up to the next setting. So you go ahead and turn it up a little bit more. And then up to the next setting. And then all the way up. Now, that towel that you used earlier, you're going to go ahead and take it and place it over your machine. And what that will do is that will catch all of the splattered milk and butter that comes along. You just kind of want to put it on there so that it'll cover up the milk and keep the milk from making a mess in your kitchen. Okay, I've stopped the machine just to show you what the stages are of the butter. Right now we're at a whipping cream stage. Now this is what it's going to look like. It's going to be thick and creamy, but not quite butter yet. It's just like what you would get when you get Cool Whip. That's just before it gets to butter. That's what it's going to look like. So if you see this, you know you're getting close. You just have a little bit more to go. So you're just going to cover it back up, turn it back on for just a little bit longer. And you don't have to worry about walking it up on the speed. You can take it straight up. Alright, so now we've made it to butter. I'm going to take this off and show you what it looks like. And be careful because your towel is going to be wet from all of that splatter. That's why we put it up there. Save your kitchen cabinet so you don't have a big mess in your kitchen. And we'll take this arm and lift it up so that you can see. That is your butter that's coming off of the mixing spatulas. And if you see that milk in there, that's the buttermilk. The next step is going to be to pour that milk out of there. Okay, so one of our next steps is going to be to take the butter and separate it from the buttermilk. And how we'll do this is just take a regular colander and you want another bowl up underneath it to catch all of your buttermilk. Now if you don't want your buttermilk, you can do it in the sink, but I choose to do it in a bowl because then I use the buttermilk for baking. So all you're going to do is just take a spatula and kind of clean out all your butter off the sides of your bowl. Pour it through the colander. All that butter will splat down in there. Clean all your butter off the sides. And then you're ready to start rinsing your butter. Okay, so now that you've poured the butter through the colander and drained the buttermilk off, there's one final step before you get ready to package it. And that is rinsing the buttermilk that's trapped inside the butter out. You're going to use really cold water. You want to make sure that you don't use hot water because that will make some of the butter melt and then you'll lose some of it through the colander. So all you need to do, turn your cold water on. Make sure that it's nice and cold. And then take your butter. Okay, so now you're just going to take your hand and kind of let the water run through the butter. And you'll see through the bottom that the buttermilk will come out. You want to keep moving this butter around until your water inside is not, see how it's a little cloudy in there? You want to keep rinsing it through until your water is clear, or about as clear as you can get. When you first start this, it's going to be cloudy. And the more you do it, the more you'll see the water start to get clearer. And the reason you want to do this is when you're packaging the butter and freezing it, if you don't, the buttermilk will actually come to the top and you'll have ice form on the top of your butter patties. So you want to make sure you get as much of this buttermilk out as you can. It'll also prevent it from preserving, and the butter will start to break down when it's in the freezer. So you just keep doing that. And you can see now that that water is just about clear. So we've got just about all of the buttermilk out of it. Now once you've removed all of the buttermilk from the butter, it's time to put it into a mixing bowl because you're going to have to get it ready to be able to preserve it and then package it. Since we've used raw milk, we use kosher salt to be able to preserve the raw butter. The reason we use kosher salt is because if you don't want salted butter when you're using it for baking or whatever, you can rinse the salt out of the butter patty before you put it into whatever you're baking. So all you're going to do is just take the kosher salt and lightly cover the top of the surface of the butter that you have. And then just take a spatula and just work it into the butter, kind of cut it like you would cutting pastry. Just cut it in so that you can mix the salt into the butter. Okay, so once you have the salt mixed into the butter, you're going to package the butter and get it ready for the freezer. Now the reason we put it in the freezer is because, again, since it's raw milk, you don't want to keep it in your refrigerator for a very long period of time because all of the good bacteria will start to break down in the butter. So what you do is we actually started using silicone cupcake trays. We used to put it in a big tub like you get in the refrigerator at the store, but realized real quick that it takes a long time to thaw out a big container of butter. So we started using these silicone trays for cupcakes because each one of these is about 1/4 of a cup. And most of your recipes, whether it be macaroni and cheese, a lot of baking recipes usually call for about 1/4 of a cup of butter. So we found that this was really easy to pre-portion all of our butter. So all you're going to do is take your butter, pick it up, and put it down in that silicone and just kind of push it down in there so that you get it packed pretty tight. And then the great thing about this being silicone is that if you get it too full, all you have to do is just clean it off to work to the next patty. Alright, so that's ready to go into the freezer. Okay, so it's been a few hours and we checked in the freezer and the butter has frozen, and this is what it's going to look like when it comes out of the freezer. So now what you'll do is take each one of these and you'll pop it out. And see, this is where I really like the silicone because very easily it'll just peel right out. And then we just take them and put them into a Ziploc bag so that when we're ready to use them, we just pick out one at a time. And like I said before, these are about 1/4 of a cup, 4 tablespoons of butter that you would traditionally buy in the store. So if you're making a batch of macaroni and cheese, you just grab one of these and throw it in with your macaroni. As you can see, making butter is fairly simple. You don't need a fancy cream separator or an expensive butter churn, just a few kitchen tools. Well, thank you for stopping by the Big Bear Homestead. Be sure to check us out on our website, www.bigbearhomestead.com. You can give us a like on Facebook at Big Bear Homestead. You can also follow us on Twitter, and be sure to check out our channel on YouTube. Thank you and have a nice day.